to the point of the meeting, the public inquiry. Please, anybody with any questions about township business, please come to the front and speak.
Lee Goldberg, 10 Arrowhead Road. On the resolutions for 20318 for the additional money to consolidate maintenance, it says to drainage curb and sidewalk project. Is that for one particular project, or is that spread across curbing work throughout the township?
Throughout the township.
So it's not just tied to one thing. Thank you. And for since Coronine Field just came up, I was just curious, what is our total expenditure now on the total Coronine Field project, approaching or at, in terms of total monetary help?
Altogether?
Yeah.
With the remediation and the field, it's about 2.5 million.
Thank you. A question for Mr. Mills regarding the last Thursday's special meeting where the amendment related to Liberty Greens was, I guess, passed. The way the zoning is laid out, I know they have a 500-foot setback, I guess, for the folks in Liberty Green for the affordable housing units, right? So
500 or 400?
400, I think it was 500.
Substantial.
So it was substantial. But, you know, I mean, again, that meeting was just a week ago. And I think this township and the community has done a great job in addressing the affordable housing issue that's in front of you. But just as we begin to implement this and these kind of changes get implemented into how that site is going to be designed, there's just something, is that, I'm sure it's legal to do that, to say, put it 500 feet over there. Is that setting a precedent for, as other neighborhoods may want to, you know, address where they put affordable housing, to say, let's put it, there's something about just let's put it as far away from us as possible. It just doesn't really seem.
It was done, it's because of the type of units that they're going to be in that development, meaning some other places are interspersed throughout.
Correct.
Honeywell,
For example.
Integrated.
They're integrated throughout.
Right.
Because of the number of units that are going there versus how many can actually be built by the developer, they basically need to have a structure that looks completely different than the townhomes. So really for aesthetic purposes, it was kind of intended to be a continuation of how Liberty Greens looks, more condos in the new development, and then...
I think that might be the feathering that he was referring to as the sort of community was laid out. But
yeah, so in other words, it wasn't, we're going to stick the affordable housing people over here. It was
right.
That if you had that structure right on the borderline, you'd be going from townhomes, condos, to a larger affordable housing that's all together, and then townhomes, condos again. And aesthetically, it just wouldn't look right there.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. So, all right, thank you. Is Mr. Sisler on the phone tonight? Is he dialed in, or?
He's not present.
He's not present, okay. Because I was going to ask him, and I'll ask you, Mr. Dunn, because you're here. So the vote took place on the amendment last week. I know you voted yes. You sort of indicated
Begrudgingly.
Yeah, begrudgingly or reluctantly or something along those lines. So obviously you may have a concern or something. I was going to ask you to elaborate on that, and I was going to ask Mr. Sisler to elaborate on why he voted no, but I'll start with you since you're here.
Yeah, sure. The entire affordable housing dynamic, what's gone to the Supreme Court multiple times. It started with the Mount Laurel decision, where African American individuals were quite literally, intentionally, unabashedly by the local town of Mount Laurel for being able to acquire homes there. Literally, areas were zoned in like wetlands where they knew that African Americans could not build on. So that's the underlying premise of affordable housing. I think everyone here would agree that that's deplorable, it's disgusting, and so the Supreme Court did the right thing. And notwithstanding that the Supreme Court ordered Mount Laurel that they couldn't do that, what did Mount Laurel do? They did it anyway. So there's a Mount Laurel 2, where the court, went back to the Supreme Court said, well, since you're not going to listen to our order and do what we said, we're now going to take control of it, and essentially we're going to zone, and we're going to make sure that affordable housing is made. So in the 30 years since those decisions, what it's turned into is a mathematical formula where you have experts differing whether this municipality needs 400 units or this one needs 1,000. And the experts come up with unique ways to find open areas where things could be built. I laugh sometimes, we had to have our expert go back and rerun the numbers because, frontage along commercial areas were considered open space where you could build. My point is, I said begrudgingly because I don't think what's being shoved down the throats of municipalities by developers who come in and want to build 200-unit complexes, and sure, we'll give you 20 affordable housing units. They're not magnanimous. They're not doing it to help, really, truly help people. They're doing it because it's a foothold in to get their development built. And so, you asked an interesting question. Is that unit near the Liberty Green site? It's kind of like, well, we're going to throw them off over there. In a weird way, that some places do that. And so, really, is that the spirit of Mount Laurel, to have people in affordable housing and shove them off in the corner? It clearly is not what the Supreme Court intended. And so I said begrudgingly because although we have to do it, it's been shoved down our throat. We have these arbitrary numbers that these experts agreed to think of. I really just don't think it's the spirit of what the case was decided on, which was that African Americans were literally zoned out of an entire town. And I don't think anyone could ever accuse Morris Township of doing that.
Thank you for elaborating on that. You're our elected official, so if you have a concern that's on your mind, you're voting on it. It's just good to know what's on your mind, so I appreciate you sharing that overview with us. Appreciate that. Is there any update, Mayor Mancuso, on any progress at all on the flyover coming off 24? Any further discussions with NJDOT?
Interesting. We've been in touch with DOT, trying to arrange a meeting for the mayors in the eastern part of Morris County to talk about the flyover. I know that there had been 4 plans promulgated, and you elaborate on that a little bit.
Way it was resolved last year with that NJDOT is going to take one of those, they're going to do up all the plans for that, and then the project's going to be turned over to the County of Morris. County of Morris is going to apply to TPA, Transportation
Planning Authority.
Planning Authority, thank you, for the grant funding for that. So it's a laborious, long time, and probably none of us will be here by the time.
Okay, well, that was going to be my now, but just have to have these things work through the bureaucracy and the forms and the...
You're looking 8 to 10 years out.
Okay, 8 to 10 years out. Thank you very much. That's comforting to know. Thank you. I appreciate that. And last thing I wanted to bring up, I don't know if anyone else received this. I received this today in the mail from, I guess, from SMC MUA regarding something going on with the water. They're saying it's not an emergency. It's nothing crazy going on, but it was an update. I was just wondering, it does look like there's some important information on here. I don't know if we could send out a messenger on this, or there already has been one sent out, or it's posted on the website, but just the...
It's all set to go tomorrow. We're waiting for the postcards to go out, which we'll mail down on Monday.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And that's really all I have. Thank you for your time. I would like to just request, tonight's meeting started at 7. Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the Jewish community, ended at 7:58 tonight. So I know this board body's been very considerate of holidays in the past, and things happen, but in the future, maybe starting an hour later should the again we go by the lunar calendar, so this may happen on a Wednesday, not for another 8 years or what have you, but I appreciate any consideration on that.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Can I just ask for one clarification on that? Can you say again, the county, on the flyover, the county is coordinating with the Transportation Planning Authority, and then they're going to have a partnership?
They're
2 of them are going to do that project?
correct. That was the latest game plan anyway. It's always subject to change.
I know, thank you.
And so in that vein, last week, the discussion was about the light at the end of Punch Bowl and Madison, and you said, Mr. Quinn said you would talk to the DOT. Any word?
I've inquired, I have not received a response back, which isn't.
But at least we're marking, right? You've got a
Oh
list.
yeah, very much so. I mean, usually it's unusual because once the traffic signal's up, it's up there for a couple of weeks, and then it goes on flash for a couple of weeks, and then it flips over, and that's not so.
It was installed in March. I think it was going to start in April.
Right.
So it took 18 months before that to get it there.
So they
And
can
we're
tell us
going to
the
wait
information.
10 years for it to start.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
the Independence Way. Going back to last week again, regarding the ordinance that we, you had looked at and passed last week, as I went through that, there were like over 200 units that were originally proposed for that property over at St. Edie's, and it's come down to 165. There is a stipulation here that 20% of the total number will be set aside for rental units for low and moderate income households. So that comes to about 33 units, is what it came out to. Is there any, there was no percentage though between the stacked townhouses and what is the other term that you use for the other market? Share townhouse, is that what you call it?
Fancy.
Market housing.
Sorry.
The townhouses and stacked townhouses,
Fancy.
Correct.
but they count the same.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
They count the same.
So there's a maximum density of dwellings that can be constructed on that site, ideally capped at the 165. As Mr. Quinn indicated, they could be stacked if they can meet the requirements, but not all of them could be stacked based on the requirements. So there's a mixture, not a specified formula of 50% stacked.
That's what I was wondering. There is no percentage as far as what can be considered stacked versus the, regular townhomes. So it can be any number. I mean, it could be 60% stacked versus 40%.
Only if they can meet the requirements for stacked townhomes.
Only if they could,
Meet the requirements for
the
stacked.
setbacks. 500
Setbacks and the height.
Setbacks in the height, okay.
And the distance from the property line with Liberty Greens.
Right, exactly. In reading through this ordinance and the discussion we had last week about a concept plan, which I understand Mr. Miller said that was not something that was supposed to be public knowledge, but a number of us saw it. And based on that, I saw what, this was St. E's proposal that came up with that?
They were part of the architecture of it, yes.
And is that, explain something to me. Is St. E's taking that piece of property and selling it, or are they developing it?
The former, they're selling it to
They
a
are
developer.
selling it.
As far as we know, that's what we've been told.
Oh, okay, because I wondered how they were coming up with a concept plan if they're selling it. Is that normal for a seller of a piece of property to come up with a concept plan as to what that property should look like after it's sold?
Probably part of their marketing of the property.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Mark Jorke, 601 Alexandria Road. First, I just want to echo Lee's comments dealing with today being a Jewish holiday. Moving forward, I think it'd be important for the township committee to respect that. And, obviously there's not a lot of folks here, and it's important that all residents have the opportunity to attend these meetings. So I would just ask that the committee in the future be respectful of that. And I also want to thank Committeeman Nunn for explaining your vote last meeting. I thought it was very insightful, and I think a lot of folks probably agree with you. And so I appreciate that. I apologize for not hearing the explanation before. I think Mrs. Wilson asked, but I was curious, what was the cost overrun for Cornine Field? What was the reason for it?
Because of
I just didn't hear. I didn't hear. I'm sorry.
the weather,
The weather.
the rain that we've had over the past several months.
Okay. So that just delayed the process, so they had to pay more man hours, or just more materials?
It's inspectional services.
Okay.
for Suburban who are doing the oversight of the project. And so it's an additional day's work because of all the rain we've had.
Okay.
We've had to extend the project for about 2 months.
Gotcha. And then I know there was a meeting recently. I was wondering if there was an update from the committee on the Collinsville Playground park equipment that was going to be installed. Does the committee have an update on that?
There'll be the bid going out, and it'll be presented to the township committee once the bids are received back for the award of the contract.
Okay. And when's the bid going out?
Once we get it back from the consulting engineer.
Okay. And then lastly, I just wanted to thank the town for working with, I'm a member of Hillside Host Company. I wanted to thank the town for working with Hillside again this year to allow us to use the park behind Hillside Hose for our Oktoberfest, and I'd just like to invite all the members of the committee, the town, everyone who's here to our fundraiser on October 13th from 2 to 8 p.m. We had a really successful event last year. We had a few concerts, we had a few bands come to play. Some of those proceeds went to a member of our Ladies Auxiliaries family whose husband had passed away recently, and we've donated a good amount of change to the college fund for those children who lost their father recently. So I just encourage everyone to come out. It's a great time. It's for a good cause, and we're just on Western Avenue, 132, right behind the firehouse. So thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you, sir. And just as a comment, obviously we do everything we possibly can to respect faiths, religions, and stuff like that, but I looked on my weather chart, and the sunset today was at 6:51.
But understand, I mean, folks are fasting all day and they're having dinner with their families now.
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else care to be heard? If not, make a motion to close the public session. So moved. Second.
Second.
Okay.